Hey everyone, and welcome. Look, today we're going to go way beyond just talking about budgeting or even picking stocks. We're diving deep. We're talking about the blueprint of the entire financial system. And you might be asking why? Well, because the real goal isn't just to, get by in this system. It's to understand how it's built so you can be the architect of your own wealth. So let's kick things off with the one idea that really rules everything.
Okay, so this is pretty much the key that unlocks everything we're about to get into. Think about it. It's basically saying the financial world isn't this fair, level playing field we're told it is. Nope, it's more like a game, and a game with very specific rules. And if you know those rules, you have a huge advantage. So, what are these secret rules? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out. And that brings us to a really, really important question for any of us trying to get ahead. You do all the right things, right? You save your money, you invest, you follow all the advice from the experts. But what if the very ground you're building on is shaky? What if it's like building a house on sand? What if the system itself has a built-in headwind and you're just running as hard as you can on a treadmill, not even realizing you're fighting against it?
All right, so let's get into our first section. We're going to start with something I think a lot of us feel. It's that frustration, that skepticism when you look at the standard financial advice. Things like mutual funds that are pushed as the go-to, the default way to build wealth. And it turns out that nagging feeling that you're getting shortchanged, it's not just in your head. It is a cold, hard, mathematical reality. Let's break it down.
So, this idea of a mutual fund trap, it's not some crazy conspiracy theory. It's actually super simple and kind of brutal when you see it. It's all about the gap between those shiny, advertised returns and what actually makes it into your bank account after everybody else has taken their piece of the pie.
Okay, check this out. It's amazing how fast a great-sounding return just vanishes. So you see an ad for a fund, right? It's promising 12%. Awesome. But hold on. First, the fund manager skims their 2% fee right off the top. Then, Uncle Sam comes for his cut in taxes. And here's the real kicker: inflation. Not the official number they tell you, but your actual cost of living. Rent, gas, groceries, all that stuff. It's going up way faster. And just like that, your awesome 12% gain is, you're lucky if you're even breaking even. You're just trying not to fall behind.
But here's where it gets truly painful. You have to look at the long-term picture. Over, say, 30 years, that tiny little fee isn't so tiny anymore. It compounds, but it compounds against you. It's not a small leak, it's a massive hole in your bucket. We're talking about something that can eat up a third, maybe even 40% of your total profits. Just think about that. A huge chunk of the wealth you should have is just gone, eaten by fees.
Okay, so to really get why this trap even exists, we need to pull back. We need to zoom way, way out. We have to look at the operating system of our whole economy. I'm talking about money itself. Because how money is made and how it's changed, honestly, that's the key to understanding all of this.
For almost all of human history, money was something real, something you could hold, like gold or silver. Then for a good stretch it was paper, but that paper was just a claim ticket, a receipt you could trade in for gold. But then, everything changed. Look at that year right there, 1971. That is a huge deal. That's the year the US dollar was taken off the gold standard. The link was cut. And just like that, the entire planet was thrown into a brand new, kind of scary financial experiment.
And that experiment has a name: fiat currency. Fiat is just a fancy Latin word that means by decree, or basically, because I said so. All it means is that our money has value because the government says it does. That's it. It's not backed by gold, not backed by anything physical. Its entire value rests on our trust, our faith in the system. So, if it's not tied to gold, where does all this money come from? Most people think the government just fires up the printing presses, right? But the real answer is actually way crazier. The overwhelming majority of new money isn't printed at all. It's created, out of thin air, by commercial banks whenever they give you a loan. Yeah, through this thing called fractional reserve banking. That mortgage you took out, or that car loan, it literally created new digital dollars that did not exist a second before. And that leads to a conclusion that is, frankly, it's pretty wild and a little unsettling when you think about it. If money is created when someone takes out a loan, what does that mean? It means our economy needs more debt to grow. The entire system, it's built on a constantly expanding mountain of debt. Let that sink in for a second.
Okay, so what happens when your entire system is built on creating money from debt? Well, you get a guaranteed side effect. It's a word we hear all the time, but most of us don't really get what it is. Inflation. And listen, it's not just your coffee getting more expensive. It's something much more subtle. It's a silent, invisible transfer of your wealth.
This is the most important thing to get about inflation. It doesn't hit everyone at the same time or in the same way. There's a name for this. It's called the Cantillon effect. Imagine new money is like a river. The people closest to the source, the government, the big banks, huge corporations, they get to drink that new money first, when it's fresh and prices are still low. But by the time that river flows downstream to the rest of us, to our paychecks, well, it's already caused prices everywhere to rise. We get the watered-down version.
Yeah, it's a top-down system, pure and simple. That new money floods into the financial markets first, pumping up the price of stocks, real estate, you name it. Which is great for the people who already own those things. But by the time it finds its way into the real economy, into your savings account, it's lost a ton of its buying power. It's basically a hidden tax. A tax on anyone who saves money or earns a wage.
And look, we don't even have to guess what this looks like. History has already given us a perfect example. Just look back at the 1970s. It was this nasty period of high inflation and zero economic growth. They called it stagflation. And guess what happened? Your standard investments, stocks and bonds, got absolutely crushed when you factored in inflation. The only thing that really held its value, gold. That should be a massive red flag for anyone today who thinks their 60-40 portfolio is safe.
You know, if you need any more convincing, just do one thing. Don't listen to what the people in charge are saying. Watch what they're doing. Since 2022, the central banks, the very architects of this system, have been buying up physical gold like there's no tomorrow. Record amounts. They are literally hedging against the failure of their own system. And believe me, that action speaks way, way louder than words.
Okay, so that's the bad news. The system is kind of rigged. It has these hidden rules that benefit the people who know how to play the game. But, and this is a big but, just by understanding these rules, you've taken the first step. Now you can stop playing their game and start playing your own. It's all about changing your thinking from being just a renter in their system to being the architect of your own. And it all starts with redefining two very simple words we think we know: asset and liability. Ask most people what their biggest asset is, and they'll say, my house. But think about it. Your house is constantly taking money out of your pocket, right? Mortgage, insurance, repairs. It's a drain. That means it's really a liability. A true asset, a real asset, is something that puts money into your pocket month after month.
This is where a tool like the cash flow quadrant is so brilliant. It's a simple way to look at it. See, most of us live on the left side. We're either an employee, E, or we're self-employed, S. And in both cases, we're trading our time for money. If we don't work, we don't get paid. But financial freedom, that's found on the right side. As a business owner, B, you built systems that make money for you. As an investor, I, your money makes money for you. That's where the real power is. That's where the tax breaks are. So the big picture goal is pretty clear. You want to find ways to migrate from the left side of that quadrant over to the right. Now, this does not mean you have to go quit your job tomorrow. Not at all. It just means you start changing how you think. You start looking for ways to build systems, to buy real assets that will generate income for you whether you're working, sleeping, or on vacation. And there really is a bit of an urgency to all this. There's a huge risk brewing on the global stage. The country that issues the world's main currency, the US, is basically stuck in what people are calling a debt doom loop. The national debt is so massive that the interest payments alone are astronomical. So what do they have to do? They have to borrow new money just to pay the interest on the old money. It's a spiral.
Now, when a government gets into a jam like this, it really only has two ways out. Option 1, default. Just refuse to pay. That's political and economic suicide, so it's not going to happen. Option 2, create more money to pay the bills. And if you look at all of history, every single time they choose option 2, they always print the money. And what that means for you and me is a mathematical certainty that the value, the purchasing power of our cash is going to go down, down, down over time.
So this all brings us right back to where we started, with one final and I think critical question for you. The rules of money have fundamentally changed. The old advice, work hard, save your money in the bank, that playbook just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't guarantee your security. The system is like a powerful river, and it's flowing in a very specific direction. Now that you know this, are you going to be a passive tenant, just letting that current carry you wherever it goes? Or are you going to be the architect and build your own boat to navigate these waters? The choice is yours, and the power to make it, well, that starts right now with what you've just learned.